This is my Christmas present from the boy, and apparently the dog ate it while it was under the Christmas tree. I suppose I'd better believe him when he used to say the dog ate my homework. Let's see what we've got and if we can complete it, if there's any pieces missing. There's plenty of parts in this kit on a variety of different colour sprues. There's some etched parts too, which should make it an interesting build. As with most railway kits, the instructions are mostly written, with only a few scanned diagrams. So we'll get started, first by building the chassis, the underframe, then the bogies. Although this is a fairly old kit, the mould lines are really nice and there's not much clean-up to be done. So I really struggled with this voiceover stuff, and the next bit I did at work, along with trying to work out how to do different other bits and pieces on this video stuff. So you have to excuse the background noise, it's noisy. So a big dollop of glue coming up. I tend to use plastic weld underneath or where it can't be seen, and extra thin on the face surfaces because it's a little kinder to the plastic. And if you're wondering, I'm sitting on 37219, which at the moment is quite loud. It sounds better than its partner at the moment, 254 on the other end. I think there should be a picture of it down there somewhere in a second. So I'll see if I can Google how to put a link in this video for the one that I've just inserted in the bottom corner. So with the written only instructions for the underframe, I struggled to work out where the battery boxes, which side the battery boxes were staggered, and the dynamo, which end that went. So I had to guess, because photographs of underframes aren't that readily available either. Then the next bit is just a little bit out of sync as well, because I decided to put the vacuum pipe along the sole bar. It's not supplied in the kit, it's just a little bit of extra detail. Again, I couldn't decide which side it went on, and I'm sure Brian will tell me if I've got it on the wrong side. So with the footboards on, it was then time to start on the bogies, which were very nice to put together, actually, very nice. So at this point I discovered there was a part missing. It was only a brake block. It's not a major issue. I just constructed a new one. But that was the part that the dog ate while it was still wrapped up in the Christmas wrapping. And I really like the way the cross beam here acts as like a suspension to keep the coupling in line. Because I decided to swap the wheel sets out of the kit for Hornby sets, just a little bit of size discrepancy, and I had to, let's say, carve some of the brake blocks out just to make them fit. So the last detail on the bogies was the axle boxes or face plates, before I dealt with the pivot point. So the screw that they give you looks exactly the same as the edge of a file, which over time eats away the plastic. It creates excessive slop and causes derailments, as experience tells us. So I crafted my own pivot out of a bolt and a nut, and a bit of brass tube just to keep the edges of the screws away from the plastic. And I probably should have used a thinner and shorter screw, but they're the ones that I have got in stock, so that's why I've used them. With that top plate screwed on, that gave a little bit of friction to stop the bolt falling out of the bottom, and I also painted it in the end as well, just to make sure that it wouldn't unscrew itself. And then when I was checking, I found some more dog bites. These were easily rectified by just dropping a little bit of glue on them and squeezing all the detail together with the tweezers. Turned out okay. Wouldn't notice the difference after it's painted anyway. So I'll just tell you about Scatty Dog, the one that's bitten this model. He's not ours, he's the boys, and he'll remain as Scatty Dog until, well, maybe if he calms down after his knackers get chopped off in a couple of weeks, he might revert to being Brown Dog. And here's the other two. This is White Dog. And the other one is Cripple Dog, formerly known as Black Dog. So you're now going to see some hints and tips that I've pinched off of some other YouTubers, namely Plasmo and Panzermeister36, and I strongly recommend you go and watch their videos because they are super good modelers. I think the general consensus is these days that super glue is the way to affix etched brass parts to plastic. I used to do it a slightly different way, but I'm trying to bring my skills up to the modern way as well. So I lost some media as well on the next bit, so we're going to skip from half-built body to paint. And no, Jim, there will not be any purchasing of green coloured paint. with the body painted. Next step is the roof, and my favourite tool, the 2mm drill. And again, because the instructions are a little bit vague on fine details, I struggled with the location of the chimney for the stove. So if I've got it wrong, I'm sure Brian will tell me yet again. So I'm just going to blue tack the roof on so that I can get the positions of the rain strips, and then take the roof off again to eliminate any masking on this whole project. Yippee! Now, with all box-like structures, gluing the sides and together always end up with the sides bowing in. I'm sure somebody can explain the mechanics or the theoretics behind that one, but it does mean that I put a false roof in just to keep everything square, and then it puts the roof on squarely as well. So back to the paint booth to spray up the roof, avoiding more masking because we're doing it separately. And then we'll strap it on to the body with some masking tape and some paper towels just to protect the body side paintwork. Buffers and the vacuum pipes were painted on the sprues. It's a lot easier to do it that way, well I think so. It just means you have to scrape just a tiny amount of paint off the body to be able to glue it back on. And the manufacturers must know that I like a 2mm drill, because that's what I used again to get the buffers in. I'm using Fox transfers for this project because I've got them on stock, and they're a bit more hard wearing, which means I can use Humbrol decal fix to affix them, which means I don't use water at all. It's just neat decal fix. Again, this is another stolen idea from somebody else, using various different tools to make the job easier. And with those last few details painted in, it was then ready for my new favourite weathering technique, which is washes. and after that it was back to the spray booth for some brake dust weathering. Well, it's taken a week longer than I anticipated, but it's finally up there running around. I've got 2 more videos to do on parcel vans or related parcel subjects before we can move on to something else. Let's get this one shunted out of the way on the railway and in service.